A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu newspaper analysis with me, where you and I analyze the Hindu newspaper New Delhi edition every day and pick up the UPSC relevant articles, analyze them in detail, develop a perspective, look into the places in news because we know not only is this information going to help us in GS paper 1 prelims, but also it shall provide us key inputs for answer and essay writing. Subsequently, even in the personality test, that's the last stage of UPSC. Now, yesterday we all know that the UPSC notification for this year has finally come. So, wishing everyone the very best. And at the same time, also, let's remember that right now, many of you might be struggling really to log in the website because of too much traffic yesterday. A lot of people were complaining that we aren't able to really access the website, which is all right, which is very normal because right now the traffic was too much. But eventually, as the website becomes accessible, you may proceed to fill up the form. Remember, first do create the URN number and then proceed with the common application form. Keep all the documents ready. In the next few days, focus on first collecting the valid documents, updating them if necessary for you. Okay, and accordingly, you can then proceed with filling the final application form. We shall also be guiding you there. That's also one thing. So, no panic, just collecting the right documents and then beginning. Yes, prelims is tough because of negative marking. That's very true. But at the same time, if your preparation is valid, then there's nothing really to worry about. After all, it's all a game of current affairs and perspective. Now, having said that, I'll quickly show you which articles do we need to discuss for the day. Before that, here's my QR code for the Telegram channel. So, all of you must join the Telegram community for all the detailed PDFs, for all the answers, sentence polishing, and many more current affair updates that we keep providing on the channel every day. And at the same time, as you join the Telegram channel, right now, the key priority for everyone must be first focusing on the prelims exam, not thinking of anything else much. The prelims, the personality test, all that comes later. Priority must be right now focusing on CSAT and prelims if you are filling the form this year. Say, suppose you are not even writing the exam this year, then it's a different scenario altogether. And for those of you who have any doubts regarding form filling, so we shall also be providing a detailed section on that once the website becomes accessible. Now let's proceed with the today's agenda, today's articles. So on your screen, you can look at 7 articles here. That is exactly what we shall be doing. All these 7 articles today. So they are lengthy articles, okay? So we start with the editorial page, that is page number 8. That's page number 7. But apart from editorial, also today all the articles are slightly lengthy. So let's focus on them one by one. All these are quite critical. And then we can have a quick discussion about if anybody has any particular issue about the notification, like Madhav is saying, it's too detailed. Yes, it is. And another thing is you have to be careful also while you are filling up the form, because once submitted you cannot take the form back. Plus, with regards to the URN number, only one time opportunity you will get to make the correction. You can't keep changing it again and again. So first collect the information, read the instructions very carefully, and only then proceed. Okay, with filling up the form. So don't do it in a hurry or in a hasty manner. So here are the articles for the day, starting from the first one, that's editorial, the budget and the imperative of fiscal control. The budget and the imperative of fiscal consolidation. So which UPSC paper can we associate this article with? This is GS paper 3. Indian economy. We are looking at the budget. We are looking at the annual financial statement as per the constitution, article 112 of Indian constitution. In the last few days, too many discussions on budget have happened. This article is a slightly technical one. Let me break it down for you in easy points. But before I do that, my protocol is to welcome all my students. So let me quickly do that. Welcome to the lecture then Terukula, Bulbul, Kundan, Sumed, Pranarthi, Satya, Shakti, and Lami, Udit, Kaizen, Kritik, Neelam, Santosh, Kavish, Abhilash, Shlok, Ramu, Iba, Reshma is here. And Who else? Aman, Imam, Hiku, Hika, Sonu. Very good. Welcome to the class, everyone. Yes. Okay, so now let us officially start with the article. So let's focus. The article is talking about union budget. The article says very recently the Finance Ministry of India has announced their annual budget. Yes, of course, it's Article 112 of the Indian Constitution. Okay, the broad estimate of government's revenue, government's expenditure, government's income. So the budget has been released. And if you look at the vision of the budget, what's the broad objective of the budget, then this budget is not about making small changes. This budget is more about making India move in the direction of Viksit Bharat. We know that India wants to become a developed economy, Viksit Bharat by 2047. The budget is a move in that direction. The budget is not only focusing on advanced technologies like AI, we have invested in biopharma. We are now going to invest in semiconductor and critical minerals, but the main objective of this budget is speedy outcomes. The budget is more result oriented rather than only process oriented. And as Shlok says, indeed, the budget is focusing upon a structural reform. Both the budget and the 16th Finance Commission have clearly said that this time we are not interested in making small, minute changes. We are not bothered about making the states happy or giving them any kind of populist stops. We are more worried about creating long-term structural changes to the Indian economy because in 2025, all of us have struggled with American tariff. All of us have struggled with increasing trade deficit, falling value of Indian rupee, capital outflow, and the falling stock market. Investors across the world were not showing a keen confidence on Indian economy. We are coming from that space. Now that we are coming from that space, indeed we are focusing on creating a budget and finance commission which can make long-term structural changes to the economy. So what is the budget really talking about? So let's focus. In this budget, we are looking at expenditure priorities. We all have seen recently how this time the government is investing more money in capital expenditure. If you remember, everybody, including Ramu, had given us that amount also. This time we know that capital expenditure, capex, has increased. I told you what is capex. Capital means capital goods, equipment, basic machinery, basic tools with which you produce other final goods. So this time, to make a big structural change, government has invested more money on capex expenditure. Even in the defense budget, same thing has happened. Rather than spending money on revenue expenses like salary and pension, the government has this time focused even in defense on capital investment, technology, drone, fighter jets, rather than spending money on personnel and their salary. In fact, the whole idea behind Agniveer scheme is to reduce capital, is to reduce revenue expenditure, increase capital expenditure. Yes, because they are long-term assets for the economy. Absolutely. So this time what has happened? The government has done two things. One, increase in the capex expenditure. Second, reduce revenue expenditure. What is revenue expenditure? Day-to-day expenditure. Administrative expenditure. Is that an asset? No. It is the opposite of an asset, bacha. It is a liability. It is a liability and beautifully refined by Ram. What all has the budget done? Biopharma, manufacturing, absolutely. Integrated port development, green hydrogen mission. These are the key pillars of the budget. Yes. So we will invest in capital assets, not revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure is now reducing. It has reduced. Look at the data. From 88% in 2015 to 77% this time in 26-27. The government wants to keep daily expenses to the minimum. Look at subsidies. Subsidies have been reduced by about 7 points, 7 percentage. What are subsidies? Subsidies are government spending on items like food, fertilizer, fuel, in order to help the people in the country, in order to keep the prices of all these commodities, food, fertilizer, and fuel, at the minimum amount, at a low scale. That is a subsidy. But this time, the subsidy has been reduced. Earlier, subsidy used to be a big part of government's total expenditure, but now the government is focusing on creating a better fiscal space. I used this word when I was talking about financial commission. I'm using it again. In the Finance Commission, Article 280 of the Constitution, 16th Finance Commission this time, the government has refused to give extra money to the states. Why? The government says, I want to maintain fiscal space for myself. What is fiscal space? Government says, I want more money. I have priorities to spend upon. I want to spend on defense. You all saw this time how the defense expenditure has increased. Government says, I want to spend on critical minerals. I want to spend on capital goods. I want to spend on national priorities and therefore I want more money. And I cannot keep giving more share of my revenue to the states. I can't do that. And hence, what is happening under both Finance Commission and the budget of India? Fiscal space of the central government is expanding. Government is keeping more money for itself. Third thing, capital expenditure has indeed increased. Indeed increased. And this capital expenditure will continue to support a high GDP growth. But there are certain problems that this article talks about. What are the problems? Everything is looking very good, but there are problems. Problems are in such a manner that the growth rate of capex is slowing down. This time in the budget, the government has increased the focus on capital expenditure. But if you look at the growth of capital expenditure itself, then the growth rate of capital expenditure has been declining. It has been declining in every 2 to 3 years to come. A very good example, it was 23% in 2024. It has fallen down to 4.2% in 2025-26. That's a huge fall down. Huge fall down. Capex is almost stagnant in India at about 3.1% of our GDP, gross domestic product. Is that a high number? It's not a high number. You might argue that, ma'am, the government is saying we are increasing capex expenditure. Yes, but if you look at the rate of capex expenditure, but it is fixed at 3.1% of GDP, and that's very stagnant. That's not a high amount. It's very, very low. What are the other concerns of the economy? What are the other concerns that we are seeing? The data is written right here. Capex is very slow, about 3.1% of GDP. Any other concern? Yes, there is a major concern. Now, please focus. A major concern is revenue and tax collection. Major concern. Why is that a concern? Because the government is saying whatever revenue, the central government says whatever revenue I get from my tax collection, direct taxes, indirect taxes, GST, whatever revenue I get, that's again stagnating. The total amount of revenue that the government is now achieving, it is coming out to be zero point 0.8. Zero point 0.8. Now, please, everyone, focus for a minute thoroughly. It's coming out to be 0 0.8. That means tax buoyancy is coming out to be 0 0.8. What do you mean? When I say tax buoyancy is 0 0.8, it means tax buoyancy is less than 1. And what does that mean? What do you mean by tax buoyancy? What is buoyancy? When a ship is sailing in the ocean, the ship is so heavy. Why does the ship not sink down? Because the water has an upward force. The water has an upward thrust. That's called technically the word buoyancy. That force balances with the weight of the ship and the ship will not sink down. In fact, the more water it displaces, the more easily it will sail. That's buoyancy. The upward thrust of the water. Yes. Here, in case of finance, tax buoyancy means how fast can the tax revenue grow compared to the GDP. Yes. How fast can the tax income grow compared to the GDP? If you have a buoyancy of 1, that means tax and GDP are growing at the same speed. If you have buoyancy that's above 1, that means tax collection is stronger than GDP. But in this case, in India right now, tax buoyancy is 0 0.8. It is lesser than 1. That's a problem. That means tax is not growing. That means what is happening now? If it is below 1, taxes are growing slower than the GDP, and that's a problem. Taxes are not giving enough income to the government compared to the GDP. That's the problem. A very good example can I give you? Example, if the GDP grows by 10%, then the tax revenue is only increasing by 8%. That means zero point 0.8 only. And why is this problem happening? Let me explain. The problem is happening because of the dichotomy between direct and indirect tax. If you look at the direct tax, what is direct tax, bache? Direct tax is income tax, corporate tax that people directly pay to the government. If you look at the direct tax buoyancy, that is not bad at all. Let me write down here. If you look at direct tax, then the buoyancy is quite good. What is the buoyancy? It is coming out to be about 1. Perfect. Tax coming from direct income tax, the revenue that the government is getting from direct income tax is really good. Not a problem at all. So direct income tax is contributing to 61.2% share of the GDP. Not a problem. It is growing faster than your GDP. Very, very good. Where is the problem? Problem is with regards to indirect taxes. Indirect tax is becoming a problematic area. What is indirect tax? Indirect tax means GST, goods and services tax, custom duty, excise duty, all these, they are indirect taxes, but indirect tax collection has been very weak. It is so weak that the buoyancy is 0.3. Only 0.3. That means indirect taxes are contributing to only 38.8 share of GDP. Do you see the gap between the two bache? Satya, Shlok, Madhav, Ramu, Reshma, do you see the gap here? Direct tax is contributing 61.2% to GDP. Indirect tax is only contributing 38%. Yes. And what does that mean? It means indirect taxes are not generating enough revenue for the government. They are barely giving any money to the government. It's barely 0.3 in terms of buoyancy. That means if GDP is growing by 10%, indirect taxes are growing only by 3%. What's the main reason? As my students already know, the main reason is GST, introduced in 2017. Very good. Via the 111th Amendment Act. Revised in 2025, the GST 2.0, where the multi-slab structure has been now reduced to minimal tax slab structure. Majority of goods coming to 0 and 5%, and some going to 40% luxury and sin goods. From 2022 onwards, the government has refused to give GST compensation to states either. Which means before GST came, the state governments used to get too much revenue from many indirect taxes, value added tax, sale tax. But now GST has consolidated all that. That means amount of revenue collected from indirect taxes has come down. It has sharply fallen down. And GST collections are the main reason behind weak indirect tax buoyancy. And GST is the largest indirect tax in India, but it is not growing as much as the GDP is growing. What are the causes? You might wonder, what are the causes? Poor compliance. Last year, if you look at the data, under Money Laundering Act, Enforcement Directorate was dealing with so many cases of non-compliance of GST. So many entrepreneurs and companies were liable. They had not paid any GST. When asked, why did you not pay? They said, we are not doing tax evasion. We do not understand. So many protocols under GST. It's too complex. Okay, so ease of compliance is not there. Similarly, rate rationalization is a problem. Slower consumption growth, reduced tax rates on many items. Many have now come under 0% slab. All essential medications, all essential goods of consumption are all between 0 to 5%. So very tough to compute GST, and hence GST is not raising enough revenue for the government. Now, not only is this a concern for the central government, low tax buoyancy, it's a major concern for the states. States are constantly upset about it. They keep saying, why don't you give us GST compensation? Government is not giving. Government is also saying, let alone GST compensation, I am not even going to finance your revenue deficit from now onwards. Manage it on your own. Become independent. Don't lean on the center. You see, these are some financial problems here. Now, another problem is with regard to center-state fiscal relationship. 16th Finance Commission. We have discussed it already. Quickly, I will revise. There is a share of central government revenue known as divisible pool of tax. From that divisible pool of tax, vertical devolution happen. Money will go to 28 states in India. But the amount has been fixated at 41%. Whether it's Finance Commission 15th or whether it's the new 116th, we are not going to increase the divisible pool. Plus, the actual divisible pool is becoming smaller day by day because the central government in the last few years has increased the amount of cess and surcharge that it creates. I told you yesterday about both. Cess and surcharge are not to be shared with the states. And the amount of cess and surcharge are increasing. That means the actual amount of divisible pool is way below 41% and states are not getting enough money. No revenue deficit financing either. In this finance commission, the central government has told the states, manage your own deficit. I am not going to provide you any revenue deficit grants. What is that? Every time a state is spending more than it's earning, it is called revenue deficit. Today, the central government says, I am not going to help you by financing that. Manage on your own. And what's the result of that? Result is that the overall transfer of money to the states is declining. Finance Commission grants have already fallen down to 0.43% of GDP to now 0.33% of GDP, very low. And this is unusual in India. Unusual because previously finance commissions used to always give a higher grant, subsequently add cess and surcharge. But now from the beginning, it's very clear. We are not increasing the divisible pool and sorry, we can't share any cess and surcharge with you. So fiscal war is already going on, but bache, the bigger problem today is fiscal deficit. In India right now, apart from all these problems we discussed, tax buoyancy, GST problem, no extra divisible pool, all that is there, slowing of capital expenditure. Another problem is fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit reduction is not slowing in the right manner. What do you mean by fiscal deficit? What does it mean? Fiscal deficit means government's total spending minus government's total income, excluding the borrowings. It shows how much money has the government borrowed in a year. How much money has the government taken as a loan in 1 year? That is called fiscal deficit. What do you mean when you say it is slowing down? It means the government is trying to reduce its borrowing every year, but it's not happening in the right direction. If you look at the numbers, they are quite disturbing. In 2024-25, it was 0.7%. Only that much reduction was achieved. In 26-27, only 0.1 reduction in total amount of borrowing annually. That means the government is still borrowing too much money. The government is trying but unable to reduce its fiscal deficit. Why is it a concern? If your fiscal deficit does not reduce, that means you continue to borrow too much money. Public debt will always be high. Less money will be now available for doing development in the country. Imagine if you keep taking loan. Imagine if I was in that situation, if I keep taking loan, what happens after a certain point of time? Now I'll clarify two concepts here to everyone. Okay, so please listen carefully, bacha. This is quite technical, okay? I just told you about fiscal deficit. What is fiscal deficit? The amount of money the government borrows per year. The problem is the government is not able to reduce this. Okay, that means, for example, if I am the government, I am taking too much loan every year. Don't you understand? One point will come when too much loan will keep piling on my head. I borrowed something in 23, 24, 25 and 26. I may say that, listen, in 2026, I am not going to borrow too much money. I will reduce my fiscal deficit. But what about the money that I have borrowed in the past 5 years? Who is going to pay that back? Who will pay interest on that loan? That also I'll have to manage, right? So that means even if you try to reduce your fiscal deficit this year, you will still not be able to reduce the total amount of loan that's piled up on your head. And that is known as debt GDP. That is known as debt GDP. The loan that is accumulated for the last few years. So there is a very close link between fiscal deficit and GDP debt. Very close relation. Repayment is a very big issue, Kundan. Absolutely. That's the problem right now. If your fiscal deficit is not reducing, per year you keep borrowing too much. One day will come, your loan aggregate for the last few years will become too much. And then what will you do? Then you will be in a problem. That is why earlier the government used to focus only on reducing fiscal deficit, annual borrowing control. But now the focus has changed in the budget. The focus has now shifted towards debt GDP repayment. We must repay that much money because debt GDP means the total accumulated debt or the loan that the government has. But even in this budget, the government has not given too much clarity on how will the debt be reduced. When will the targets be achieved? And how shall we be able to repay all the loan that's piled on us? Fiscal deficit and GDP debt are very closely related. Why? Please understand, fiscal deficit means net borrowing every year. Debt GDP means total borrowing accumulated over many, many years. If you borrow too much today, you will have to pay more tomorrow. So higher fiscal deficit now means higher debt GDP tomorrow. It's a liability, absolutely. So what is going on? The government is now trying to shift its priority from annual borrowing reduction to the reduction of debt GDP. Today we are doing debt GDP targeting. Both indicators are closely linked to each other, but one always leads to another. So therefore we must reduce our debt, and the debt has been increasing. Effective interest rate on government debt is about 7.12% in 2026. Interest payment itself is contributing to 40% of revenue receipts. Now look at that. Is that not crazy? What is revenue receipt, bache? Revenue receipt means the income that the government receives every year for its day-to-day expense. Okay, that is the income that you receive every year. But I am saying 40% of this total revenue receipt goes where? In interest payment of the loan that you have taken. Interest repayment. Why? Because you know, fiscal deficit has not been declining too much. What does that mean? Debt GDP has been very high. Every year it accumulates and now it is too high. Yes. So now whenever you earn any money, your revenue receipt, 40% of that goes in paying your interest that you are still trying to repay as a part of debt GDP accumulated loan. So what benefit will you get? How will you spend this money into welfare? No wonder then these things are happening. Manrega goes, VBGRAM comes. Central government says, I am not now going to take responsibility of 100% financing. I am not giving you any money. I am reducing expenditure on Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. I am reducing expenditure on Swachh Bharat. I am reducing money on Amrut Mission. States will manage. Why? Because there is no money. 40% is going to repay your loan. That is why the government is doing everything it can. By not giving more than 41% in divisible pool, by not financing welfare schemes, the government is improving its own fiscal space. When the interest burden becomes too high, there is a very good word this article is using, but I remember this word. When the government interest payment is too high, interest repayment burden is too high, it crowds out, a very good word, it crowds out development spending. What do I mean when I say that? When there is too much interest that you have to repay, it will cover up, it will cancel, it will damage completely the money available for development spending. A very good example is, if I, as a person, I have to pay too much loan. Tomorrow, if I get my salary, my priority will be to repay the interest on that loan, or can I buy myself a new car? Naturally, I can't buy a new car. If I keep buying new car, then how will I repay the interest that's piled on my head? That is only debt GDP. So what will you do? No matter what income you get, will you not repay the debt GDP? Or rather, will you start spending on welfare scheme? You can't. There is no extra money to pay. And that is becoming problematic. Why? Because the government keeps on borrowing money by issuing bonds. On an average, on these bonds, the amount of money the government borrows, government is paying 7.12% interest every year. That's a high interest. At this rate, most money goes in interest repayment. So for every 100 rupees that the government borrows, rupees 7.12 every year is gone to pay as interest. When this rate keeps increasing, borrowing becomes expensive. And if you pay 40% of revenue receipt for interest and loan repayment, how will you spend on development? You can't spend on development. And at the same time, the government has no option also. The government can't even say that I am never going to pay for development. States will retaliate. People will retaliate because the money needs to be spent on welfare. Who will provide for sanitation, school, housing, road and defense? The government only will do, right? Capital expenditure is government's responsibility. But it has revenue expenditures to take also. Money is not there. 40% goes in loan repayment. So what is the option do you have now? You have no option now. This becomes a very vicious cycle where all the money is going in crowding out development spending. Development spending is not a priority now because most of the money for development spending becomes less. Now you can't spend on development or productive expenditure, you keep repaying your loan. So therefore, overall, if you conclude this article, yes, Shakti, article is saying the government is almost like in a debt trap situation. The budget provides a strategic roadmap of becoming Viksit Bharat, but right now there is no solution with regards to how to reduce fiscal deficit, how to solve the problem of high debt GDP, how to create a balance between the two, how to increase income coming from GST, how to offset the loss that has happened because of replacing indirect tax with GDP, how to create tax buoyancy above 1, how to convince the states that we can't give you more than 41%, and how to fulfill your responsibility of welfare schemes. So, caught up between these problems, ultimately it's about fiscal discipline, but right now these are the questions that are actually in front of us. Yes, it is a tough situation. That's what the article says. I hope everything is clear to everyone. I hope all my students have a good clarity now about words like fiscal deficit, GDP debt, buoyancy, tax buoyancy, GST and revenue problem, divisible pool of taxation, finance commission. Even one student should not have any doubt. I hope it's clear to each one of you. Yes, Shlok, if I was to use this word in society, so social justice, I would say it is known as intergenerational poverty. Yes, very good. Consider the following statements regarding union budget. 1. The share of revenue expenditure of the union government has declined over the last decade, while the share of capital expenditure has increased. 2. The overall tax buoyancy of the center is below 1. Below 1. Below 1. Mainly due to low buoyancy of indirect taxes, especially GST. 3. The 16th Finance Commission recommended an increase in tax share of divisible pool of the center along with continuation of revenue deficit grants. Which of these are valid? Let's see what my genius students have to say to that. Kavish, Sadhna, what secret is going on between Ramu and Madhav? Let me quickly catch that secret. 2 minutes. Abhilash, Sitaram, Shakti, Shlok, Reshma, Sumed, Kritik, Madhav, Pranarathi. Very good. Very, very good. Ashish, aspirant. Very nice. Cloud, Hika, Santosh. Okay. Very nice. Very, very good. Aman, big round of applause. No split verdict. No need for the Lokpal. Absolutely, Ramu. Absolutely. A is the right answer. Bacha, you've done so well, each one of you. You've done so well. Honestly, at this rate, if you keep on answering and if concepts are so clear to you, my hemoglobin is going to shoot from say 11.5 to perhaps 21.5 in India. Average women in reproductive age are all anemic. They don't even have a hemoglobin above 10. But at this rate of happiness and satisfaction, I'll be a unique woman then in this country. Very well done. So proud of you. A is the right answer. Third is totally opposite of the truth. The Finance Commission has refused to increase the divisible pool beyond 41%, and the government will also not compensate for any revenue deficit. Very, very well done. Okay. Article number 2, editorial page. Well done, Bache. Extremely proud of everyone here. Extremely proud. Okay, very good. Article 2nd. Article 2nd is looking at, once again, GS paper 2 from the UPSC syllabus because we are looking at international relations. And of course, it is also GS paper 3 because we are looking at the tariff, we are looking at bilateral trade agreement, we are looking at the proposed free trade agreement. Now, every day and all the time, every day and all the time, I talk about free trade agreement. At the back of my mind comes the same question. The mother of all the trade agreement, all the FTAs was India-EU FTA with a bloc of 27 countries. But that's a very good example of a mature trade deal. It's a mutually benefit free trade agreement that India and EU have signed together. Why? Because India completely said that I am not going to compromise on sensitive sectors. Today, also in the newspaper, our Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, has once again repeated that India is never ever going to compromise on sensitive sectors like dairy and agriculture. Yes, and Europe respected that. Europe did. But with America, things are very different. So, what is happening? Today, President Trump, out of nowhere, absolutely out of the blue, has come and said that we are now going to reduce India's tariff from 50%, very good Santosh, to 18%. We are going to finalize the free trade agreement with India. And once again, our market in America is going to open up to lots of export coming from India. What is happening as a result of that? Right now, there is no official deal on paper. There is no commitment on paper, so we cannot take it for granted. But yes, as soon as this announcement came, investors are once again showing confidence in Indian economy. Our capital outflow reduced. Investors once again started investing in Indian markets. Stock markets improved. The value of Indian rupee that has been falling repeatedly vis-a-vis American dollar stabilized. There is a very happy sentiment among Indian exporters who have been suffering under the high tariff since last year, May 2025. All that is looking beautiful. But then all that is very, very promising on paper. In reality, we are not sure things will move as expected, because yesterday when I asked you that who told President Trump that we are going to reduce import of Russian oil? Who told President Trump that we are ready to buy Venezuelan oil? Who told President Trump that India will now accept opening up of its dairy and agriculture sector? Then Ramu and Shlok said his imagination. I'm not able to get over that joke. I absolutely keep laughing about it like all the time. But that's true. Indeed, his imagination, because there's no written proof right now. So, what does this article say? This article is saying it was never an economic problem in the first place. Our money was falling, our export capacity declined. It was not about India's economic performance. We are the fourth largest economy of the world. It was all geopolitics. And today, also, everything is happening with regards to geopolitics. That's what we are saying. So, quickly summarize this article. What is India's new trade strategy? India's trade policy now focuses on large strategic trade agreements that gives India stability and predictable market access. We want predictable markets. We do not want fluctuating markets like America and China. Today they are there, tomorrow they are not there. It doesn't help us. Now, trust me, whatever materials, whatever goods, whatever services India is exporting, all of these are labor intensive sectors. Whenever export declines, it is not just the foreign income that falls down. It's not just a trade surplus that falls down. Employment also gets severely challenged. These are employment intensive sectors, particularly in the informal sector. People lose their jobs. Therefore, we do not want risky markets. We want stable markets. Question is America a safe market? Right now, we don't know. Recently, we signed the biggest free trade agreement with European Union. We have signed one with United Kingdom. We signed one with New Zealand in record time of 9 months. We signed one with places like Oman, places like Jordan. We signed one with UAE. We already have one with Saudi. India has been improving the pace of its free trade agreements. Why? Absolutely, Shakti. We want to diversify our export markets. We can't trust on one single partner right now. And all this diversification has only strengthened India's position. But latest and the most significant deal is now about to come. This is the free trade agreement with America. About 1 year of negotiation has gone. And after 1 year of negotiation, finally, President Trump has said, I will now reduce your tariff from 50 to 18% on all Indian goods. Earlier, American tariff used to be as high as 50%. What happened? Our export competitiveness declined terribly. Now, new negotiations are happening, and we are hoping that if the tariff can come to 18%, Indian goods will once again regain American market. America is the largest market for Indian exports. I told you earlier about $48 billion worth of export market. Getting it back is a great development. It brings policy certainty. It restores the value of rupee. It stabilizes capital in India. Capital inflow comes, outflow declines. It creates a very positive environment for the ongoing, I repeat, for the ongoing India America bilateral trade agreement. Now, with America, we are already having a talk regarding BTA, bilateral trade agreement. The talk has been going on for a very long time now. Maybe we can improve its development now. How has India expanded its global network? If you look at India's global network expansion, India now has preferential trade agreements with so many countries. So many countries. For example, look at Europe. India recently signed FTA with Europe, 27 nations of EU. India signed one with UK. Apart from that, India UK roadmap of development till 2035. There is European Free Trade Association. India has signed another TEPA agreement. TEPA agreement with 4 countries of Europe: Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Iceland, Norway. Apart from that, India has also signed trade agreements in the Pacific. In the Pacific, what are these? Australia, New Zealand. We had discussed the controversy with New Zealand. New Zealand and Australia are also partners in RCEP, that is ASEAN Partners, Regional Comprehensive Trade Agreement. Yes, but India had worked out of RCEP in 2019. Why? Because India said, I am experiencing a loss in my sectors like agriculture. It is a trade loss for me. New Zealand and Australia, they have a massive dairy and agriculture market. Their products are very good quality and very competitive. Now, if we reduce custom duty and excise duty on them, if they flood Indian markets, then Indian dairy farmers and agriculture farmers will have a severe loss. So, therefore, we walked out of RCEP. That's what we did. But now, once again, we are trying to renegotiate with RCEP. Similar thing is happening here. Look at West Asia. India has free trade agreements with UAE. Recently, we also signed a defense cooperation deal with UAE. India has a free trade agreement with Oman. I wonder where is Terukula today? Had he been here, he would have definitely reminded us that Oman was also about India's access to the Dukum port, where recently a ship from India that was made with hand stitches, Tankai method, INS Kaundinya, it had travelled through Dukum port in Oman, a strategic point of India to counterbalance China's influence in that area. Then look at America. We are already negotiating bilateral trade agreement with America. What are these examples of? Yes, Reshma Shlok. What are these examples of? All these are examples of India's integration with global economy. India's integration with global economy. Absolutely, very good. Chabahar Port, Dukum Port, Gwadar Port, very good. So all these trade agreements are examples of India's deep integration with global economy. But the bigger question, why does American market matter so much? Of course it matters, Bacha, because it's a market of $48 billion. That's no joke. Before the tariffs were imposed last year up to 50%, America was the largest trade partner of India, followed by West Asia, that is UAE. First was America. Today, China has emerged as one of the strongest trade partners in our move towards diversification. Earlier, who was it? It was America. America indeed is the largest import market in the world. It is. Massive demand. India's biggest export destination. When I say $48 billion market, understand, it is about 20% of all India's exports that reach America. What are the main items India sends to America? But you always remember, labor intensive. All these are labor intensive sectors in the informal sector. They generate too much employment in India. What are these sectors? Gems and jewelry, leather, textile, apparel, footwear, electronic goods. All of them are labor intensive, supporting millions of jobs. That's the importance of American market to us. Next, what are the sector-wise benefits? Look at clothing, apparel. India has a price advantage over competitors like Vietnam and Bangladesh. Gems and jewelry. If we get lower tariff in America, it will improve margin of profit. Look at marine products, processed food, leather, footwear. All these can be sent to American market at a lower cost, meaning thousands of dollars for Indian exporters. Great GDP enhancement for India. It also improves capacity enhancement, job generation, higher salaries in India. India then becomes a key part of global supply chain. It will improve our global competitiveness against China. Right now, China is the leading manufacturing country in the world. China is a top country when it comes to electrification. We saw that yesterday. China is the top country when it comes to rare earth material, critical minerals, AI chip fabrication, semiconductors. If India wants to have its place in this competitive market, India must compete with cheaper markets like China for all these goods. Textile, apparel, Bangladesh, marine products, Sri Lanka, coffee, walnut, dry fruits, chocolate, Brazil, South Africa, Pakistan. If India wants to succeed all these countries, free trade agreements and access to America is the answer. If India wants to perform better than ASEAN countries, American market is the answer. American export potential supports India in becoming a global manufacturing hub. The logic is very simple. It's a simple funda. It's a simple funda. If I am an expert in manufacturing these sellotapes, and if somebody says every year I want 1 lakh crore sellotapes from you, the more I produce, the better capacity I get. Tomorrow I will open 40 factories, 100 factories. I will keep expanding. I will generate employment. I am contributing to my economy. I'm contributing to industrialization. Apart from that, the more I produce, the more capacity increases. The more capacity increases, the more I produce. It's a simple logic. So not only are we getting export surplus, we are also getting capacity enhancement. You see, that's the beauty of American market access. Now, beyond trade, the deal with America is showing some other things also. It shows that India, America are having, see, we deny it or we agree. India, America do have a mutualistic relationship. What's a mutualistic relationship? When two people benefit with a relationship, they have a mutualistic relationship. Indeed, they do. I know the tariff war happened. I know the H-1B visa controversy happened. I know America was not nice to India by blaming us during Russia-Ukraine war. I know it was too much pressure. The pressure is there even today. But that is all the egoistic diplomacy of President Trump. But remove President Trump from a second and look at India-America bilateral relation, whether it's from the time of, say, President Bush or President Obama or President Joe Biden or Donald Trump Part 1, his first regime. India-America have always had a mutualistic relation. Look at the Quad, how the countries cooperate. Look how America has always been the topmost export destination for India. Joint ventures, technology partnership, investment in high value sector, joint development of defense, joint development of AI technology, digital trade, all that is key partnership of India America. Look at the number of Indians who are settled in America, the foreign remittance that we get from there. It was a good relation. The fracture in the relationship is all because of the megalomaniac policies of President Trump. It has nothing to do with overall relationship between India and America. Presidents come and go, relations continue. Yes, so probably it's a temporary fracture. So can we safely say that right now America, India, as they are negotiating the decline of tariff, as friendship is already now again on the cards, we are key partners in Quad, we support each other's supply chain. Can we say everything is good? Not really. Sentiment is improving. I hope we are able to sign a FTA soon, but the key challenges remain. Today morning, in America, one of the political leaders announced it is a good thing that India has promised that India will not import any Russian oil. The thing is, when did we say that? When did we say we'll buy Venezuelan oil? It's thick and very tough to refine. It's expensive to import. We can't promise that. Can we compromise on relations with Russia? A country who stood with India since 1971 war against Pakistan when no country came in our support. Russia stood with us. It signed a 20 years friendship and peace treaty with India. In the 23rd annual Russia-India summit, Indian Prime Minister Shri Modi said, India-Russia relationship is like the pole star. Other stars can die, but the pole star continues to be very, very bright. Look at the reload agreement. Look at the oil import relationship. Look at people-to-people migration. Look at importance of Russia as a counterbalance to China in forums like Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS. So India can't compromise relations with Russia under American pressure. These are certain things that are causing confusion. If it is just about a trade deal, good enough. But then if it also becomes something that is like a force on India to compromise on India's foreign relations with other nations, then that's problematic. Because we are not interested in friendships per se. We believe in multi alignment. Yes. Agreed? Understood the article? Absolutely. No friend, no enemy. Diplomacy, strategic autonomy. Yes? Thank you for expanding that word. Megalomaniac. Somebody who's obsessed with power, somebody who's obsessed with too much control, too much domination. It is a characteristic sign of some world leaders. Yes? Quickly, the question. Consider the following statements regarding recent India America trade deal. Answers are coming. Shlok, World Cricket, Kavish, Sumit. 1. The agreement reduces American tariff on Indian goods to 18%, improving India's export competitiveness in US market. 2. Employment intensive sectors like apparel, gems and jewelry, leather are among the major beneficiaries. Beneficiaries. They will get the benefit of the tariff reduction. And 3. Tariff reduction is expected to ease immediate trade friction and provide a constructive basis for improving negotiations under the proposed India America bilateral trade agreement. Which of these statements are valid here? Limbs, Cloud, Urupam, Pranarathi, Madhav, codename Viren, Elwin, Satya, Ramu, Kavish, Reshma, Ayan. Absolutely correct. So what should I do? Of course, clap in your honor. All the statements are valid. Absolutely well answered. Making me proud so much. Again, very, very, very good aspirant. Great job. Great, Ramu. Very well answered. Nailed it absolutely. Now, quickly proceed with another article. This is from text page. But this is one article we have already covered in detail. There is nothing new to cover here. Does that mean we can skip it completely? If we skip it, we might forget tomorrow. I will not elaborate. In exactly 5 minutes from now, let us revise what is going on. Let's not elaborate too much. What's the core issue of this article? The core issue of this article is how the Supreme Court of India, the Honorable Supreme Court of India, has put a temporary stop, a temporary halt, a temporary stay on the new UGC regulations, University Grants Regulation 2026. What are they related to? They are related to equality and anti-discrimination policies in universities, but constitutional concerns are involved here. What has happened? Yes, let's quickly summarize. What has happened? Supreme Court has put a stay on the new UGC regulations, equity rules. Why has the Supreme Court put a stay? Because court says the provisions are ambiguous, they are not clear and they can be misused. Until the case is decided, we will continue to follow UGC regulation of 2012. 2012. Why were the anti-discrimination rules made in the first place? Why did we need them? Listen carefully, everybody. GS paper 2, social justice. In 2012, UGC made rules to prevent discrimination inside college and university campus to provide equal access to everyone to education. Discrimination was defined very broadly here based on caste, gender, community, disability, etc. Universities were required to create equality opportunity cells, departments, and anti-discrimination officers were there to stop discrimination against any student based on any criteria. But why? Why the issue became so serious? Issue became so serious because suddenly, despite these 2012 rules, students such as Mr. Rohit Vamula, 2016, Ms. Payal Tadwi, 2019, they died. There were deaths of these students, innocent students, they died. Why did they die? Because they were victims of caste harassment and caste violence. What happened now? The families of these poor people, the families of these diseased students approached the Honorable Supreme Court demanding justice. And they said, which means the existing 2012 UGC rules on equality and anti-discrimination are not enough. We need something stronger. And what did UGC do? In result, the UGC now revised its rules of 2012 by replacing them with 2026 equity rules. But why are these so controversial? These are controversial because earlier in 2012, discrimination used to be a broad word against gender, caste, religion, or anything. But now, in 2026 notification, discrimination is only restricted to caste based discrimination. If somebody is experiencing caste violence and accusation, only that is discrimination, nothing else. It limits discrimination to caste based, to people of ST, SC, OBC community only, nobody else. And why are students angry? Students from the upper caste, so called general categories, are angry. They are saying, what if tomorrow this will be misused against us? Maybe the complaints are politically motivated or fake. It presumes guilt for the general category members that they are always the abusers. It can be misused on campuses. It can be used as harassment. So what did Supreme Court say? Supreme Court says, yes, that's true. Maybe the definition of discrimination is now too vague and narrow. It could lead to misuse. It could raise legal questions like, is a separate definition of caste-based discrimination really important when discrimination can be based on gender, disability, race, language, anything? Could the definition affect classification within the backward classes also? We don't know. So therefore, all these doubts are raising constitutional questions on Article 14, right to equality. But in India, right to equality is given on all the bases: place of birth, gender, your race, your religion, on everything, not just on caste. Similarly, Article 15 of Indian Constitution, no discrimination by the government on the basis of anything. But now, this UGC rule is going against Article 15 by refusing to admit other categories as base of discrimination and only restricting it to SC, ST, OBC. So what's the key idea here? Treat everybody the same. Equality is not enough when it becomes formal equality. Equality should be substantive equality. In reality, you must treat people equally. Sometimes extra protection is needed, but that doesn't mean you avoid equality as a basic principle. So here a bigger question comes, bache. The difference between formal and substantive equality. What do you mean by that? Formal equality means everybody is exactly the same. Treat them equally. Example, Article 14, Article 21. But substantive is different. Substantive means when sometimes you need to give somebody an extra protection because historically they have been abused. This is substantive equality. Example, Article 17. Example, reservation. Yes? So that's what we are talking about. Definitely it's a matter of ethics and politics too. GS paper 4. So what can we understand from this article? The government has a right to recognize the right of backward communities. But caste-based discrimination has become a serious and a real issue in India. Is there a solution? We can redefine the 2026 rules. We can consult all the stakeholders together. We can strictly enforce anti-discrimination to genuinely protect the underprivileged so that neither are the laws abused, but yes, we provide people protection. That's the key sentiment of the article. Quickly, the question. Consider the following statements regarding UGC promotion of equity in higher education institutions rules 2026. 1. The Supreme Court of India has stayed the implementation of UGC regulations 26 on the ground that some provisions are ambiguous, not clear, and prone to misuse. Second, pending the final decision of the court, University Grants Commission Regulation 2012 related to promotion of equity and prevention of discrimination will continue to operate. And 3, the new regulations define caste-based discrimination broadly to include discriminatory acts against people of all caste categories. Which of these are true? Really? Is it D or is it A? Split verdict. Call the Lokpal, please. Time for the Lokpal in my class, please. First is correct, totally correct. That's what the rules are about. Second is correct, completely correct. Yes, until the final decision of the Supreme Court comes, we continue with the 2012 old rules of UGC. Is the third statement correct? The 2026, we are talking about the new rules, bacha. The new rules define caste-based discrimination broadly to include discrimination against people of all the caste. What did we discuss in the article? It is only meant for people of specific caste. It is only going to protect caste-based discrimination. For ST, ST, OBC community, that's why people are angry, no? So third cannot be correct. It's wrong. So A is the right answer. So very well done, very well thought of. I hope there's no more confusion now. Yes. Absolutely, Saurav. You heard it totally correct. Caste in India, I've told you many times, bache. Caste in India is a structural construct. It's a structural social construct. In GS paper 1, when you study the salient features of Indian society, look at the syllabus. What do you mean by salient features? Salient is something that is easily visible, the most prominent feature. So, among these salient features, if I was to tell you four salient features of Indian society, one is religious dominance, two, caste. Caste is the most important. Three, underlying patriarchy. And fourth, the fact that Indian society can never change structurally. Change in India is always circular. It is never linear. Always remember, you will study that in society. In India, society doesn't change like Western societies. It doesn't go in unilateral direction. It is in circle. We always come back to something we end. We try to end caste discrimination by creating constitution, by creating all the acts like, Prevention of Atrocities Act. But what happened? Is caste gone? No, caste is still here. So that root change will never come. In India, you can change everything functionally, but you can't change anything structurally. Okay, that's the big thing here. Now, quickly, let's proceed with the next article for the day. And this is slightly technical, so please focus a little more. This is GS paper 3, Science Technology. We are looking at the war between Meta, WhatsApp, WhatsApp. We are looking at what's the controversy against these two companies. The case is now being considered in Honorable Supreme Court of India. Yes, you can say fundamental, salient, most defining, prominent. Let's quickly focus on the article, Bache. What does it say? I'll summarize it easily for you. This article is saying how the Honorable Supreme Court of India is today questioning the business model of Meta. The business model of Meta is being questioned, very good, Abhilash, in the Supreme Court. Why? Especially the idea that users are giving free consent to share their data on WhatsApp when the company has a monopoly in India. Imagine a company like Meta, a platform like WhatsApp that everyone is using in India. Now, WhatsApp in India has become a proxy society. It's not written in the article. I'm sharing my personal view with you. WhatsApp in India has become a proxy virtual society. We all live through WhatsApp. We interact through WhatsApp. We can't think of life without WhatsApp. That's the sheer dependence on social media. Yes? Very good, Apex. Today, suddenly, if somebody gives us an ultimatum that either share your data with WhatsApp or stop using WhatsApp, it is about take it or leave it controversy. Either accept it or leave it. Go away. Don't use. What will we do? Given our sheer dependence on WhatsApp, if not ours, other people's dependence on WhatsApp, it's like a parallel society, aspirant. It's like a parallel society now. Yes, virtual reality. Today, we can't leave it because of the sheer addiction and dependence. What will I do? I will make a compromise. There is no alternative. I will say, okay, take my data. Take my data. Why will I say like that? Why will I surrender? One, because I'm not very aware about what can happen with my data. Second, I do not know whether I will ever have an alternative if I refuse to give data to WhatsApp. Third, even if I refuse to give, will others refuse? No. So I will be the odd man out. Fourth, I don't even know the economic value of my data. I don't know. So I will easily give my data. I don't understand the value of this data for that company. I will give it. I will give it. Yes, that's the controversy. The article is raising a broader question on DPDP Act 2023, Digital Personal Data Protection Act. The article is raising a question on Article 19(1)(a), the right to free speech and expression. Article is raising a question on right to privacy, Puttaswamy Verdict 2017. Puttaswamy Verdict 2017. Right to privacy is a part of right to life itself, Article 21. Why is it under controversy? Please understand. What has happened? What has happened? Why did the dispute start? The dispute started in 2021 when WhatsApp introduced a policy called take it or leave it, which Apex told us right now. Take it or leave it. It's a privacy policy. Yes, privacy policy. Users had to accept increased data sharing with Meta. If they do not agree, they will have to stop using WhatsApp. For most Indians who are using WhatsApp as a main interaction forum, leaving WhatsApp is not practical due to strong networks that are coming in WhatsApp. Strong networking effect. What happened then? In reality, it is not an option that you are giving. You are forcing the user to share the data. Where is the logic of informed consent coming here? Where is the concept of prior consent coming here? It's like a threat that you are giving. And people are dependent on WhatsApp, so they agreed to give their data. That's the dispute all about. It has raised the concern in India over how the people were forced to surrender their data. Absolutely, Ramu, well done. It is the classical ethical debate between DPDP on one hand and Right to Information Act 2005. It's a clear-cut battle between that. Now, what happened after that? After that comes the role of another body in India named as Competition Commission of India. What happened now? Competition Commission of India held WhatsApp, Meta, guilty of abusing its monopoly, domination in Indian market. It imposed a fine of 213 crore on Meta. It ordered Meta to stop sharing WhatsApp data advertisements for 5 years. But what do you mean by? What do you mean by Competition Commission of India? What is this? So remember, Bachche, Competition Commission of India is a body that was created in 2003. It is a national regulatory authority that's responsible for enforcing antitrust and competition law in India, established under Companies Act, established under Competition Act. It is meant to give free market competition to all the companies so that no company can do anti-competitive practice. No company can abuse its position of domination in the market, and you can't force users unethically. So what happened now? Competition Commission of India imposed a fine of 213 crore on Meta. Was Meta happy? Obviously not. Meta was very unhappy. What did Meta do? Meta went ahead and started now appealing to the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, that is known as NCLAT or NCLAT, NCLAT. It was frustrated with this announcement of Competition Commission. It went to NCLAT. What is NCLAT? NCLAT in India is a quasi-judicial body. Remember, bache, it's a quasi-judicial body. Quasi-judicial body. When was it established? 2016. Please remember. 2016 it was established. It's a quasi-judiciary body. Why is it there? It hears all the appeals against the decisions of bodies like National Company Law Tribunal, against Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, against Competition Commission of India. Created in 2016, it plays a very important role in imposing corporate law in India with regards to so many issues like appeals and business related adjudications. Yes, that is NCLAT 2016. Now what happened? Competition Commission slapped a fine on Meta. Meta goes to NCLAT. What does NCLAT do? NCLAT also doesn't listen to Meta. It said, I agree that the 5-year ban on advertisement is very, very tough punishment. We can't give you 5-year data sharing ban. Let's remove that. But you have indeed abused your position of monopoly. You have not done a good thing here. And you have abused, you have done anti-competitive law. So therefore, data protection should be the prime concern. And NCLAT also held Meta responsible. It also accused Meta of doing anti-competition practices. Finally, Meta, when it felt I am not getting any justice either from the Competition Commission or from NCLAT, now Meta has reached the Supreme Court of India. Finally, the court is in Supreme Court and the case is in court, and Meta is challenging penalty and the fine imposed on itself. But what does the court say? The Supreme Court has taken an even more tough view, much stricter view. It said that WhatsApp in India is almost like a proxy society. It is society itself. When you tell somebody walk out of WhatsApp, you are asking them to walk out of their network and their society. It also is a good example of how market dominance reduces and destroys the real choice to people. If I want to buy paracetamol, I go to the market, but there is no brand that is ready to sell paracetamol. Only one brand dominates. It could be any brand, Cipla, Doctors Reddy, Bayers, anything. But only one brand is selling. Will I have a choice? Will I have a choice? I won't have. I don't have a choice. There is monopoly. Only one standard company sells that product. I will buy that product. What choice do I have? I have no choice. So that is what is happening here. Now, if this company starts troubling me by saying that if you want to buy paracetamol tablet, you must share all the data with us. We will shoot advertisements on the basis of data of consumers like you. And I said, I am not interested. And they say, okay, then we are not selling paracetamol to you. Go. What will I do? Will I not buy that medicine? I need it. I will buy it. If for me it's a tough choice not to buy, I will buy. And in the process, what am I doing? I'm giving my data. Is that a real choice as a consumer that I'm giving? No, it's not. It's like a forceful choice because market is monopoly. And when there is monopoly, there is no real choice. You have to give your data. So the court has now given a very big thinking. Listen to this thinking. What is the thinking? The thinking given by Supreme Court is that data is not just about numbers. When companies make money out of consumers' data, the real question is who owns the value created by that data? Who is the owner of the value of that data? Data is not just personal, data has an economic value. The current laws focuses on protecting privacy, but we are not protecting any kind of economic value of data. Ideally, the economic value of data should also belong to citizens and the government, not just to private companies. And it is a gap in the DPDP Act itself. It also shows India has a low digital literacy. We don't know what people can do with our data. Highly concentrated data platforms who can abuse our data. Very long and complex policies that people do not understand. Users are not just consumers, they are treated as products. Data is the new gold, also, the new oil, also. So, what does the Supreme Court say? Court says Meta must stop sharing personal data, otherwise, its appeal will be dismissed. Stricter conditions will be put on Meta. And what do we understand from this article overall? The case is a big shift in looking at data just as a privacy issue to something that is an economic asset. Okay, it also shows that data can be extracted through forced consent when you exercise market monopoly, and therefore anti-competition laws should be very strictly implemented. That's what we understand from this lovely article. Hope it's clear to you. Now let's proceed with a quick discussion on GS paper 2, polity and governance. Polity and governance. Let's quickly travel to the beautiful northeast. Let's go to the state of Manipur. Let's go to the state of Manipur. What is going on really? In Manipur, finally, we have seen after a long time, president rule has come to an end and a new chief minister, Mr. Khem Chand, has now come to the post of chief minister. He has been elected as the chief minister. This is the new development from the state of Manipur. After a very long time of dealing with president rule, after a very long time, that's so sweet of you, Wincy. God bless you. After a very long time, we are seeing elected government coming back to Manipur. Nearly 1.5 year rule. Very good, Ramu. Very good, Kritik. Very, very good, Shlok. Nearly 1.5 year of president rule has come to an end. But that does not mean political stability will automatically lead to social stability. Ethnic crisis is still going on and it will not get over very soon. What has happened? What happened? In Manipur, president rule was imposed for more than about 1 year. Today, finally, that has come to an end. And now what is happening? The government led by BJP, NDA, has come to power. Mr. Yumnam Khemchand Singh is now taking oath as the new chief minister. But the government understands that it is an ethnically divided state right now. The ongoing controversy between the Metis and the Kuki-Zo community has been raging for a very long time. It can be an intertribal conflict, but beyond that, it is also a communal religious conflict between a Christian tribal group and a Hindu tribal group. That is also a big controversy. Yes. So, because of the ongoing controversy, because of so many people dying, president rule was imposed. Yes. But today, as the new chief minister has taken an oath, the government knows still stability will not come. So, therefore, the government has done a balancing act. Apart from the main chief minister who is from BJP, there are two deputy chief ministers who represent different communities. When did we last speak about deputy chief minister, Bache? When did we last speak about deputy chief minister's post? In which article, under which controversy? 2 weeks before we spoke about deputy CM in a state. Which state was that and what was the controversy? Quickly confirm. So here, as a balancing act, apart from the main BJP chief minister, two deputy chief ministers are coming. One will represent the Kukizo community and another will represent Naga community. Very good, Maharashtra. Sharad Pawar issue. Absolutely. His wife and so many questions raised on her constitutional membership, her legislative assembly seat. Very, very, very good, Santosh. Article 175, 176. Absolutely brilliant. Well done. Now coming back, as a balancing act, two deputy chief ministers are coming to balance the situation. But let's quickly talk about what is president rule and where is it mentioned in the constitution. Before that, what's the ethnic violence in Manipur? In Manipur, ethnic violence is there between the Meitei and the Kuki-Zo community. Violence erupted since May 2023. Thousands of people are displaced and many more died. The government was collapsing. The problem exists even today. Today, although we have a chief minister, but still the Kuki-Zo society says we are not interested in joining the government. We want a separate state or a separate union territory-like arrangement. Again, the same question of separatism. Yes. Now, what is president rule? Let's quickly understand what is president rule. So, Article 356 of the Indian Constitution talks about president rule. Remember, Article 356 talks about that. What is president rule? President rule means that the state government is suspended and the state is directly run by the union government. It is imposed under Article 356 of the Constitution. When and in which cases is president rule imposed? 1. Breakdown of constitutional machinery of the state. 2. The governor reports that state cannot be managed, the state cannot be administered as per the Constitution. These common situations happen when no party forms the government, or there's a breakdown of law and order like in the case of Manipur right now, or loss of majority in the assembly, political instability or violence, a judicial control. What happens in this case? In this case, president rule can be implemented and state government is suspended. And then what happens? Union government gets the authority to make laws for the state. But now very carefully listen to me. Already you are listening. Listen to me super carefully. Here there is a problem. Earlier, what used to happen? President rule was often misused by the central government. Opposition ruled states used to say central government always misuses its power of president rule in opposition party ruled states. So therefore, in India, we created a change here. The Supreme Court of India totally changed its position now. Totally changed. And which important Supreme Court case is involved here? Which important Supreme Court case is involved here? Yes, we are looking at S.R. Bomai case. We are looking at the 1994 S.R. Bomai case. 1994 S.R. Bomai case. So, bache, listen carefully. President rule used to be misused by the government and therefore Supreme Court changed its position. All that happened in 1994 under the S.R. Bomai case. What happened in this case? In S.R. Bomai case, it was said that president rule is justiciable. But majority must be trusted on the floor of the assembly and Article 356 should be used as the last resort. It is an emergency. It is not a regular protocol. SR Bomai case is a landmark judgment of Supreme Court in India. It has redefined the limits of the central government to dismiss state governments by using Article 356 of the Constitution. Today, it is the cornerstone of India's federal structure. It controls judicial oversight over executive action. Never forget that. Never forget that. Yes, so that's the broad understanding of this article. So quickly do the last question for the day. Consider the following statements regarding president rule. 1. President rule is imposed under Article 356 when the constitutional machinery of state is deemed to have failed. Second, during president rule, the governor administers the state on the behalf of the president and parliament can make laws for that state. 3. As per the SR Bomai case, the president's decision to impose president rule is beyond judicial review. Slightly tricky, but such a beautiful question. Reshma Shlok? Yes, my dear Ramu, Sitaram. Good morning, Terukula. No problem. You can watch the recorded version, bache. Terukula, Prasad, Reshma, Saurav, Sumed. Yes, Bulbul. What are your answers? Zahir Akhtar, are you there? Madhav answers. Ashish answers. Rajnishwar is answering. Sadhana, Elvin have answered as well. Pranarithi answers. Bulbul, Sonu, aspirant answer. Is there a fractured verdict? Do we need to call the Lokpal? Yes. Maybe for a very short period we have to call. Not much split verdict, but some split I can see. Time for the Lokpal. Time for the Lokpal. Time for the Lokpal. Shakti. Naresh. Santosh. What to do? Time for the Lokpal. First statement is correct. Totally correct. That's 356. In fact, one student was talking about all three emergencies. I want to know who was that. So I will read out that comment loudly. Should be, who was that? It was Santosh. Santosh was telling, as we are talking about 356 president rule, he also talked about two more emergencies. 352, that is external, that's a war situation. And 360, that is financial emergency. Very good. Now, second one, president rule, the governor can administer the state and parliament can legislate. Obviously, that is only president rule. The power to run the state goes to the center. What about the third one? Under SR Bomai case 94, president decision to impose president rule cannot be examined by the court. Is it? Absolutely wrong. Opposite. What was SR Bomai case, bache? SR Bomai case means, bacha, SR Bomai case means that in India, president rule used to be misused. Therefore, we had the SR Bomai case where the Supreme Court put a control on that. Judiciary has put a control on executive, who is the president, that you can't impose president rule whenever you want to. There is a restriction on that. You have to have certain conditions for that. You have to prove those conditions because we can't let president have discretionary power here. So there is court judicial review on executive power. That is Bomai case. Bomai case controls and limits central government's power to dismiss the state government. Therefore, third is wrong. A is the right answer. Well done. But it was a Lokpal case. Come on. It was a Lokpal case. No, you can't delude me into believing that. Seeing is believing. Listening is not believing. I saw, no, it's a complete Lokpal case. Yes, judicial review. No need for Lokpal. Of course, there is a need for Lokpal. Okay, one of the last articles for the day. It's a beautiful article. Of course, it's GS paper 2. It's GS paper 2, social justice, but I am not going to drag it too much. I'll take about 4 minutes for this article. So please focus quickly. What does the article say? Denotified tribes seek constitutional recognition, separate entry in the census. Census is now coming in 2027 after a long wait. There is a segment of tribals in India who say we want a separate category, a separate representation in the census. Who are these people? What are we talking about? Beautiful, beautiful Terukula. Today we are talking about another category of tribals. Very good Shlok. When we talk about tribals, all my students will say tribals are about 8.6% of India's population if you look at scheduled tribes. They will all talk about 5th schedule, 6th schedule. They will talk about National Commission of Scheduled Tribe. They will talk about Tri-Fed. They will talk about Hibar Commission. They will talk about PVTG, Odisha, Bhil, Santhal. I know, very good. But right now, I'm talking about something else only. I'm talking about another category of tribe known as DNT. Who are these? These are called denotified and semi nomadic tribals. Bacha, who are they? Now, let's go back. Let's go back to the times of British Raj. What did the British government do to India? Not just the fact that they devastated India's agriculture and economy, they also socially abused Indians. For a British administrator who's coming from a foreign country, it was impossible to understand the diversity of India's culture, diversity of India's tribal legacy. Whenever they saw that a group of tribals are doing things like dancing, dealing with snake charming, doing some kind of magic shows, migrating from one place to another like nomadic groups, they could not understand that. They couldn't understand. They always felt that these are uncivilized people. Because they could not understand their culture and because they strongly believed in absolutely doing divide and rule in India, they totally started ignoring and marginalizing the tribals. Now, this also relates to the Santhal debate. This also relates to the Santhal rebellion of around 1875. It goes back to that time. The Santhal, no, not 1875. When was the Santhal rebellion done? Was it not 18? Which was the date of Santhal rebellion? How come I'm missing the date? How come my memory is playing gimmicks with me? When was the Santhal rebellion done? The Damini coal area, NCRT, Santhal rebellion, bache? When the British government abused the Santhal tribals and made them cut all the forest for industrialization. And later they did not give them even one small space to exist in. They treated them like laborers and then forced them to recede into jungles. Very good. Thank you, Reshma. Thank you. It was 1855. Yes. I was so confused between 75 and 55. Very good. 1855. Now, something similar happened when Santhal rebellion happened. They completely marginalized the Santhal people. Santhals trusted the British. They cleared the forest for them. They worked like day in and day night. What did British do? Captured all the area, gave them later a small part known as Damini coal area. Totally displaced them. Yes, very good. So many things, like even today we talk about Bhagwan Birsa Munda, absolutely. The two brothers, Siddhu and Kanhu, their sisters were also there. Two sisters were also there. Very good. That's the story of Santhal rebellion. But it's a very good example to remember what the British did to Indian tribals. It was atrocity, nothing else. Similarly, there is a group of tribals, such as migratory tribals, such as snake charmers or magicians. All these were treated by the British as criminal tribals. British couldn't understand their culture, and British said, you are semi-nomadic and nomadic. You are people who are criminals. You do criminal practices. You do theft. You do dacoity. That was a false claim. But that's what British did to them. And what happened then? The British started giving them severe isolation. What did the British do to them? The British not only called them criminals, the British included them under 1871 Act. And what is this act all about? This act was called Criminal Tribes Act. Yes, stereotyping. Very good. This act was called Criminal Tribals Act. 1871. British listed a group of some tribals under this act. And who were these tribals? For example, Bahelia, now found in Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh. Padhi, now found in Maharashtra. Then Sapera, Banjara, Kalbelia. All of these tribals were known as dacoits and criminals out of the blue. And they were categorized under Criminal Tribals Act 1871. Now, when they are being called as criminal, naturally they will experience social stigma. People will experience social stigma. People will experience abuse, marginalization. They will never be integrated in society. And that was acute humiliation. So what did Indian government do? Immediately as Indian government became independent, under the first Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first thing India did was to decriminalize them. In 1952, India decided to decriminalize these tribals to remove the stigma on them. And now we started calling them denotified tribals. Why? Because now they are not notified under 1871, they are denotified, destigmatized. Yes. So that is what was done to them. Then what happened? Now that they were destigmatized, the government kept trying to provide some welfare for them. But there is a problem. In the census, we have a separate constitutional recognition, a separate column for scheduled caste, for scheduled tribe, for OBC. But today, these DNT communities are saying decriminalizing and denotifying us is not enough. You should also give us a separate column in the new census 2027, just like SC, ST, OBC. They are saying if you do not give us a separate column, you keep on merging our identity with other scheduled tribes in India. Once more, we will lose our heritage and legacy. And that is why they want a separate caste enumeration, a separate column for them, so that later the government can also give them dedicated welfare scheme, budget allocation, and political and social recognition. If they are not separately recorded, then their deprivation will never ever end. Okay, so although there are certain benefits the government already gives them, like the seed scheme, but it is not enough. They feel we have been treated like criminals and therefore we have to get some justice. We are in a very, very deprived state. And this demand of these people is inspired by a 2024 judgment of Supreme Court of India, which allowed sub-classification of tribes even within SC/ST category. But some states do not have any community certificates for DNT. So therefore they never get funds. They are often clubbed with other people. So what has the government decided to do? The Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment has also recommended that in the upcoming census 2027, let's try to provide them some kind of a separate category called DNT category, so that their demands can also be met. And so many notified, nomadic, semi-nomadic tribes are now demanding that. And there's nothing wrong in that demand. After all, it's about social empowerment and social inclusion. Is that clear? Yes, it is a name because it is a community. So she hails from Santhal community. Okay, the Honorable President, that is Santhal community. Okay, is that clear? No, it is not caste, it is class, other backward class. Why? Because it is also SEBC, socially and educationally backward class. Why class? Nobody will ask why class, not caste. Because in SC, you only have backward caste, the untouchable caste, coming from Hindu groups and those who converted to Sikhism. They can come. Tribes, exclusively tribals. What about OBC? Now, there are certain categories who were not untouchables, but they were allocated the Shudra Varna under the Hindu community, Hindu religion. They are represented in OBC class. Then, those Hindus who converted to other religions like Islam and Christianity, but they continue to be backward educationally and socially, they will come in class OBC, not in ST. ST is a narrow category, only meant for untouchables under Hinduism and Sikhism. OBC is a broader category that shows not only Hindu religion but many more religions like Islam and Christianity, and say for example many others, small minority religions. And that's why it's a class, not caste only. It's a broader category. No wonder it gets 27% all India, differing from state to state, and it can be revised by the government also. Yes, is that clear? Okay. So that's the article about DNTs. So remember that, denotification and all. And now we are mostly done with today's Hindu. One last thing in the passing is about Iran. Recently, Iran-America controversy erupted again because America says that America has a carrier. Okay, America has a ship that is known as USS Abraham Lincoln ship. This ship was sailing near Iran in the Arabian Sea, but America says Iran tried to fire a drone on that ship. Drone on that ship. America hit that drone and America was able to protect that ship. But that shows again tensions between America and tensions between Iran. Iran, we all have studied thoroughly. All I can do is show you a quick map here. Iran, 1979. 1979. 1979 Islamic Revolution to now the internal rebellion against ruler Mr. Khamenei. Perhaps people want a change, like Reza Pahlavi, the American sponsored leader, the last family monarchy of Iran. Today, recession is high, economy is falling, too much sanctions on Iranian oil, and hence America Iran controversy continues. America has kept on threatening attacking Iran every now and then. So here's the map of Iran. Do look at the location of Iran very carefully, because right here in Iran, you can see the location of Iran in the Persian Gulf. But more than that, you can also see how a country like UAE jets into Iran, creating a very special area near Bandar Abbas, which is known as known as known as what? What is this area? Where UAE tries to enter in the territory of, very good, Strait of Hormuz. Beautiful. Please look, focus at Hormuz, Bandar Abbas. Look at Iran's boundary with Afghanistan, Pakistan. Look at how drug and narcotic business happens in this area. Look at the boundary with Iraq. Look at Saudi. Look at the Caspian Sea on the top. Look at Ramsar, a city in northern Iran, 1971 Ramsar Convention. That's all. A very good question. Strait of Bab al Mandeb belongs to Yemen. Hormuz, Iran. A question was raised by Shlok. Ma'am, why do we call it class? Does it refer to economic status? It does and it doesn't, both. Because when you say SEBC, you are looking at many parameters of backwardness. Backwardness that has happened as a historical injustice, owing to which people under OBC category are educationally also deprived, and they do not see much representation in various employment sectors. That's how you categorize backwardness. But it is a caste and cultural based backwardness that results in their poverty or deprivation. Lack of representation is the criteria here. When you say economic, then that is EWS. EWS, that is separate. EWS, 10% reservation, that is open to members of upper caste also. That is not based on caste. Is that clear? Clear to everyone? The golden crescent, Reshma. Very good. So that's it from my side for the Hindu. Here are the answers. Now, a quick reminder. Those who are willing to write the prelims this year and still doubting whether they are sufficiently prepared, we announced success in prelims. Batch is beginning on 10th February. The price is extremely humble, 4999. If you want more discount, use code SPLIVE please and you get further discount. At the same time, we promise to cover GS paper 1 with thorough revision, books, materials, everything, and CSAT. I will join you in both these courses for GS1 and CSAT, but sign up quickly because batch is starting 10th February. Tell your friends, anybody who else wants to prepare can join us. I'll keep you updated through Telegram today on some grammar rules and many more current affairs. That's so sweet of you, Abhay. I think if you follow the Telegram channel, I'm constantly trying to work now on sentence polishing. I will also focus on synonym improvement. So definitely practice. Eventually, definitely pays really well. Okay, so thank you very much, all of you. And Vincy, that's so sweet of you. And God bless you for saying that. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow now. Keep practicing, keep enjoying your studies. I'll catch you 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. And lots of love and lots of blessings to all my students. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. We will talk about language improvement also. Don't worry. Thank you so much.